Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say a few words on this very topic. I think that in Africa we might be lagging behind as far as this discussion is concerned. It's a discussion that is very important to us in Africa because it's about our very, things that we like on a day-to-day basis to refer to. It's about government programs. It's about the programs of civil society. It's about basically the future of many communities. So there's a lot of interest in the discussion. And we hope that as we move towards and post-2015, there will be a lot of interest from civil society organizations, from governments, from political organizations in Africa to take a leadership role in the discussions that will take place. I think the basic question will be, does it have the heartbeat of the village? Whatever comes post-2015, does it have the heartbeat of the village? Does the villager who lives at the very front line, do they have a say in what is being proposed? And will they be able to control the manner in which resources will be distributed by governments in the countries, in the different countries? It is the same whether you look at it from the point of view of South Africa or Africa as a whole. What normally happens is that civil society organizations, peasant associations, farmers groups, they will probably gather around and discuss in greater detail what it is that the post-2015 scenario should be for them. Do they foresee a situation where they will put a lot of trust in government? And can they do that successfully and still deal with the objectives of the MDGs or whatever comes after that? How about the issues that are at present stopping the service delivery process in those villages, in those countries? And there are quite a number of them. Corruption is one of them. And the other one is simply unstable political environments. So the issues will be, should we then come up with a strategy that puts resources in political environments that are not stable? And can we then trust that those political environments can then manage the resources properly so that they can deliver on the objectives? But whichever way we look at it, a major issue will be, do we just go for a broad framework where the same targets are set for all countries? Or are we going to go for a more structured agreement between countries in terms of how the objectives of the post-2015 scenario will be articulated? There are advantages and disadvantages of that. Certainly, broad framework, governments can interpret it their own way and in the way that suits them within their countries. But if it's an agreement that binds governments, then they are likely to try and honor the agreements that they enter into. But we have a fundamental problem, and that problem has been there and affecting the MDGs, and it has affected the manner in which the PRSPs, the poverty reduction strategies, were being developed in Africa generally. And that problem is that a lot of African governments rely on foreign donors or foreign finance institutions for their day-to-day operations. So what that means is that for governments, the top priority is whether government will be able to function. And to function successfully, they need international aid, and they need support from donor countries and so on. So they are likely to prioritize programs that address that basic concern that they have. So for them to be able to go beyond that, there will need to be a lot of concerted international pressure, international diplomacy, international relations, and everything put together to ensure that at least governments honor their commitments to poor people. But there will be a lot of settling in that needs to go on for governments to move away from what they consider priorities and what poor people consider as priorities. For persons with disabilities in Africa, I think we are pretty much organized. Our movement is capable of putting towards, to government and political bodies an agenda that is coherent and which relates to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We feel that anything that comes out, out of 2010, out of 2015, should relate to some kind of a human rights treaty, and that way we will be able to achieve the objectives of that treaty, but also ensure that these are international policy positions that have already been discussed and agreed upon. So therefore, we don't anticipate that there will be that much difference or that much debate in terms of their priorities, because we've already passed that phase. So we feel that any agenda that will come out of the process towards and beyond 2015 should be based on those treaties. And organizations of disabled people in their different countries will come together, and then they will define what it is that they feel is important. Then they will engage with their governments, and at continental level we engage with the African Union to ensure that our positions are taken on board. And then the last point that I wanted to mention is the focus of these initiatives. Is it on people, in which case we are quite many of us with different needs. Within the disability sector, we are not all the same. There are some people that have got visual impairment. Their needs are different from those people that are deaf. So therefore, the people focus will be an issue that we will be interested in terms of how will any post-15 agenda affect or relate to the needs of the different groups that are within the disability sector. Or on themes, like previously, or on both. Do we start with a few countries in Africa, or do we start with a few countries in other continents, or do we just roll it out globally? So those are the issues that I think we will engage with over the next coming months as we try to develop a position, an approach, and how we can take part in this debate. But there is no doubt that this time we don't want to be left behind, like what happened with the MDGs. And with the MDGs, people sort of like said, well, you can fit in the MDGs as they are. But when we try to do that and we assess the reports that are coming out from different countries, there is not that much involvement of issues like those that affect persons with disabilities. Very little in those reports. So therefore, we will insist a little bit more on greater involvement, and we are able to provide leadership on matters that relate to our participation and benefit from these objectives. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, AK. And thank you very much also for bringing up a few critical issues, the question of what to do in the less stable environments, the issue of, can you actually get to a binding agreement and accountability and so on. So that's very useful to have those on the table. Mukesh, would you like to